All right, and so tonight's presentation, as has been advertised, is Advanced Ride with GPS. So I will turn things over to myself. So, to understand what usable means in this context, when you create a route, you can do it. You can actually use this then in a bunch of different scenarios. One would be on the Ride with GPS website, where you can see the route goes, see what the elevation profile looks like. Another would be if you have a printed cue sheet that you're using probably while you're riding. Another, of course, would be on the Ride with GPS app. Another would be if you've downloaded the route to a Garmin or similar device, and then you can even use routes on other apps. And I'll be talking about all of these, but as you create a route, it's important that you know the limitations of these different uses. Because if you understand those and accommodate those, now you can make routes that work well in those environments. Because what you don't want to do is throw a route out there and have someone try and use it and they think, you know, this person doesn't know what they're doing here. And I've seen that happen, and I'll tell you how to avoid that. So you may have had this happen. You're out on the route, you've been dropped, it's hot, your water bottles are empty, you're cramping, you're bonking, you haven't seen an arrow in a while, and you're wondering, where on earth is the next rest stop? Is there even a convenience store nearby? And am I even still on the route? I've experienced all of those at one point in time or another, and it certainly takes the fun factor away from having a ride. So there's all kinds of questions like that. Now, I'm not going to focus on these questions right here, but we're going to revisit this slide at the end of the presentation, and you will know how to answer all of those questions. So Ride with GPS itself, if you haven't played with it, in fact, is there anyone here who has not played with Ride with GPS in some manner or form? Okay, a couple of folks, all right, very good. So Ride with GPS is route mapping software. It's similar to Map My Ride. It's similar to Bike Radar, which was the old Bikely, but it's more sophisticated than those, in my opinion. Interestingly, when you look at how it's evolving, Ride with GPS and Garmin and Strava are all trying to occupy the same space. Each has its own strength. The strength of Ride with GPS, in my opinion, is really its route creation capability. With Strava, it's much more the social aspect. You can share what you've done with folks who are more likely interested in seeing it than perhaps on Facebook. And with Garmin, that's better integrated with Garmin devices and seeing the numbers that you get from the Garmin devices. So there's a link down here at the bottom. There's a very nice write-up on Road Bike Rider that compared all of these three. And it came out saying, you know, of the three, each has their place, but Ride with GPS really is the preeminent software if you're creating routes. So if you decide you want to join Ride with GPS, you go to their home screen, you log in, and this is what you see right up front. You got to decide what kind of account that you want. So you get this little starter account for free, and you see the short list of things you can do with that. And then the much longer list you can do with the basic or premium accounts. But holy cow, look at that. That's $50 or $80 a year. Well, not to worry. We have an NCBC club account, which means you get all of that for free. That's a pretty good deal. So what do? You don't read this slide. I'll show you. Let's get over here. So first thing you do is you would sign in, you would create an account on Ride with GPS and create the starter or the free account. Then you go to the NCBC homepage, go to benefits. When you read about the benefits, you'll see that it'll talk about right up front our Ride with GPS club account. Here we are at our homepage, click benefits, and then this will maybe a little bit better. Now we go to the club account. And then here is the link that you click on that will take you to where you enter your Ride with GPS credentials, your email address, password, and that enters you into the club. So that's the secret first, well, not secret, but that's the first step there. So let's see if we can.
What credentials?
Your Ride with GPS credentials. So when you created your account, you specified your email address and a password. Those are your credentials. You'll need those when you join the club account.
So with the basic account, you can just download the rides and see the rides. You can make basic rides, but you can't do fancy editing.
Can't do any fancy editing.
Yeah.
And when we look at the app, you can't do some of the things you really want to do in the app, like see your location or download the routes.
Okay.
So you can use them offline. All right, so once you've done that, now you're ready to create routes on RideWithGPS. So let's, still going there. Well, not a problem. Okay, we're in business. Thank you for your patience with that. Okay, so what we want to do now is go ahead and create a route. But first, we need to log into the club account. So this is your basic RideWithGPS dashboard. You can always get here by clicking on their logo up there. And over here on the left, you'll see the NCBC logo. You want to click on that. Having clicked on that, it brings up our club page. And then you want to sign into club. And when you sign into the club, now you'll see a yellow banner across the top. And when you see that yellow banner, you know you're operating as the club and not under your own private account. Now, if you don't see that yellow banner, or if you don't see the sign into club button, it means you have not yet been approved as a route manager. When you join the club, by default, you're not, but Bob Oderkirk and myself, I think one or two other folks, will get an email saying, hey, someone's joined, and we go in and approve you. So if you're trying to do this and you don't see this, feel free to send me a note or Bob, and we'll see that you get approved. But once you're here, now you're ready to do business. And if you're going to create a route, you go over to plan, and it brings you up somewhere, I think in Oregon. So we're going to go a little close to home. And no, I do not want that to be the starting point. I do want to remove the marker. And so what we're going to do for this exercise is I'm going to create a route that starts from the, whoops. That started earlier than I wanted to. It starts from the bicycle chain. I'll just move this over here. And I usually zoom in to get the starting point where I want, and you'll see why a little later, and to zoom out to make the route. And now you just click along the roads you want to go on. So we'll head out here, go up White Oak Church, zoom out a little farther. Go over to Martha's Chapel, cross the lake. You know where we're headed now. Oh, I understand. It's giving me a warning, but that's okay. So we'll go up.
So that was just telling you should click in the middle of the road?
Yeah, generally you want to click in the middle of the roads. And then we'll come down Big Woods, come across 64. Go back on Horton's Pond, over to Luther, up Wimberley. And now we're about ready to close the loop. And so now is when I zoom back in to get, I need to have the plus sign there as the route, so I'm going to zoom in even more. So long as I have the plus sign, I can click and get the route. If I get too close, it changes back to a pointer. So I'm going to go there. And now that takes us all the way to the back, so I can see it's the distance I expect, 41.7 miles. I want to zoom back out and look at what I've got and make sure that looks about right, and it does. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to call this demo route. It is a cycling route. I always put the roads as normal. And it's public, it's in the NCBC. For route tags, I'm going to do XXDLC again. I'll explain that in a moment. And I'm going to save as new. So it'll take a moment to save this, and then you'll see this screen. You can say view your route right here. And so here's our newly created route. If you had a starter account, this is all you could do. You could create a route, you can share this, but you can't add anything to it. But even then, this has some good information. For example, we see the distance, we see the estimated time I think that's one of your profile settings for what your average speed would be. The number of feet you climb and descend. It shows the steepest part of the climb is 9.8% grade. Guess where that is? Right there on Lystra. And the steepest descent is 6.3. That actually occurs twice, coming down to 15,501 and then again coming down Jack Bennett. Yeah, you can see here where Lystra and Jack Bennett are on the profile. And there's something here, when I'm getting ready to ride a route and I see they have a Ride with GPS link, the first thing I do is pull this up, see where it goes, and I look at the elevation chart. I'm interested in how steep are the climbs, because that affects what gearing I put on my bike. And something you can do here, which is kind of interesting, if I select down here and pull across, now I can see just part of this, and let's see just how long and steep Lystra actually is. Well, it's only about half a mile. Now it says 9.3% grade, but if you go down here, it'll actually tell you there's a 9.9%. So some of those maximums they tell you can be a little bit off. I'll round that up to 10% for Lystra for steepest part for half a mile. But this is the basic part of the ride, and if this is all you share, that's helpful. Generally, when you're creating routes on Strava, this is about what you get for folks. This is good enough to get you turn-by-turn directions. Okay, fine and good. It's not good enough to answer all those questions we saw back at the beginning. So what let's do here is let's go back and edit some more. And let's say we know that we want to have a store stop where else but at Wilsonville. And so the things you can do over on the right here, in this case, we're going to add places of interest or a POI. And I'm going to zoom in here. And generally, when you add a place of interest, you're not putting it on the route, you're putting it just off the route. So I'll go here, and this is going to be, since I'm using this as a store stop, I'm going to put it as food. I'll say store stop. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the description where that store stop is. I'll save that.
What I do, rather than you had to cut and paste, you'll see there's also usually some information about that. If you click on the icon for the store, it will have the address and telephone number, so you don't have to look it up.
Oh, that could be. That could be. But the point I'm going to be making here, you'll see in just a second, is I'm also going to go up here to the BP station at Lystra. And just to elaborate your point, yeah, if I click here.
Underneath you've got, if you hit cancel, and you go underneath, you can find the address.
Okay, well,
your demo. I'll let you get on
yeah.
that, sorry.
Come down here. There we go. Whoop. So same thing there. Here we've got this. And I'm usually working on a much bigger screen. There we go. And for this, I'll choose just the convenience store. Oh.
So that was the information I was talking about.
Mm.
I just can't paste that into the info, so I don't have to know anything.
Affectionately referred to as the shitty grocer. Maybe not so much anymore, but in years past, it used to not be very exciting.
That's true. So what we've done now is we've got the points of interest here. So somebody viewing the map. Now, if you're, of course, actually doing an event where you're having multiple rest stops, you'd put each of the rest stops there. And I'm kind of using this store stop as my rest stop, so that now when you tap on this, you'll see the address. Now, why would you want the address there? I can think of two reasons. In the case I just said where you're about to die and you're calling your spouse to come pick you up, well, they're going to want to know where are they going to pick you up. Well, if you know the address, you can say, I'll be at this the next rest stop, just pick me up there. Another scenario is if you've got volunteers that need to go to that rest stop, they need to know where it is too. And I've been at rides where I got to a rest stop that was completely empty because the volunteers couldn't find it. So that's in general, a good idea to put the address there for your rest stops. But more than that, so we've added a couple points of interest. You can also add entries into the cue sheet. So you can see the cue sheet over here on the left. When you add to the cue sheet, you're literally adding into the cue sheet list there. And so what I want to do is go back now. Now look at what I did. I did something there. This undo button here is your friend. So we're just going to undo that. What I want to do is drag up here. There we go. And I'll zoom in a little bit. And now for the cue sheet entries, you do need to be on the route. So I'm going to be right about there. I'll click. And here, again, I'm going to have food. And I'll just say store stop. And I will go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and put the same address in there. And we'll see why in just a minute. And we'll save that. And what we see over here now should be about the 30-mile mark. Sure enough, there's our store stop. So if you have a printed cue sheet, now you see where the store stops are and you see its mile marker. Because that's one of the other things I want to know when I'm doing a route, at what mile markers are the rest stops, because that helps me gauge, do I really want to stop here? Or if I know it's only 10 more miles to the next, maybe I just go on. And here too, by having the address here, it's on the printed cue sheet. So volunteers and other folks who know where to find it.
If it's on the cue sheet, you get a pop-up on your Garmin. The POIs don't give you a pop-up.
That's an important point that I'm just about to get to, because if you're riding with a Garmin or if you're using navigation on the Ride with GPS app, when you get to these custom cues, it'll still pop those up. That becomes very pertinent. So beyond just identifying where your stops are going to be, you can do some other things too. So let's add a couple of those. So let's go over to our place Lystra. And one of the things I like to do, I'll stretch this out a little bit so I can see it right here. Looks like it's the high point. So let's go ahead and say here's the summit. And I'll just say summit. Indeed. So that way, if you're riding along, you'll pop and you were at the high point of the route. It's all downhill from here, more or less. You're not climbing any more than that anyway. I'll deselect down here so that goes to the whole thing. And then the other thing that can be useful, let's zoom in here to this little stretch of 15501. This is a real busy highway here. And so I'm still at my add to cue sheet. So not right at the intersection, but a little bit before. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to say danger. And I'll say busy. I'm going to deliberately spell out highway here for a reason you'll see later. I'm going to save that. And so now I've done a couple things. I've got these now in my cue sheet where here's the store stop, here's the busy highway. So as I'm approaching this intersection, if I'm navigating with this on either the app or a GPS device, I'm going to get a prompt that says busy highway. And there's some places, like if you have really treacherous railroad tracks, that's worth noting. Don't litter your whole cue sheet with this kind of stuff, but if there's something that's really noteworthy, make a note of it, right? Okay. Let's see. So we've added our extra cues. I'm going to go back up here now and look at this button that says review. Now this is actually, I didn't even know about this till I was preparing for this presentation. What this lets you do is go step by step through your cue sheet and see what you've got. So the first one, turn right on Roberts Road, like that, confirm. NC 1600, what the hell is that? Nobody knows what that is. That's Green Level Church Road. So I'm going to change that and confirm.
Yeah, anytime the street name changes, it gives you a cue. I delete a lot of those because it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going straight.
Yeah, so like right here, it says at traffic circle, continue straight. And that's obvious, no one needs that. So I'm gonna go down here and delete that one and then confirm. So what this lets you do is just go through and verify that your cue sheet reads the way you want it to, and you can add or delete or whatever if you want. And then ultimately here at some point, let me get, close review. Let's go back up and save again. And this time I'm just gonna update what we've already done. So now we're making real progress. Now we have a route, we have the, let's go view our route. We have our rest stop identified, we've got the address, we've got the extra convenience store identified, its address, we've added our custom queues for things that are pertinent. So what else can we do here? What we can do is now let's go ahead and work on our cue sheet. Now, if you just have print cue sheet, it's not very interesting. It's just this, which to me is, well, it could be better. So let's not do that. Let's do the print map and queue PDF. And here you have some options, not a whole lot of options, but some options. By default, your title is your route name. We'll call this the 2019, 42 demo route. One of the things I've discovered, if you're creating a route, call it what distance it actually is. People, for some reason, don't like bonus miles. So if you're claiming it's a 100-mile route and it's actually 106, even though you don't charge them extra. For the footer, you do want to put something here. I'm going to say marked with blue arrows for help. Call Uber. And you can just ignore my spelling or typing. But there's two things, given that you have a footer, you want to take advantage of it. More than anything else, the question to be answered here is, whom do you call for help? So if you're out there stuck, if you had a bad mechanical, or worse, if you're injured, well, if you got a cue sheet, it should at least tell you that much. So let's add that. Now down here, you've got a lot of options for a number of columns and everything else. I like a 2-column format, and I have strongly held opinions about what the columns should be in the order, which is what you see here. So what we can do is we can generate a PDF, but better than that, we can, with a club account, you can set as official PDF. And that means anyone who comes to this route and wants to print the map and cue sheet, they'll say, there's already an official one. Do you want to print that, or do you want to go and customize it yourself? So that way, if you put a lot of care into the cue sheet you've created, including the footer information, header, all that, they can pick that up and not have to recreate that themselves. So let's have a quick look at this. And the reason I choose the 2-column format, a lot of people ride with clip holders on their handlebars. This lets you fold this in half and then half again, so into quarters, and makes, again, a very usable cue sheet in that style. My personal opinion is for a real event, you'd want something more sophisticated than this, but for a pickup ride or even some from our rallies, this is good enough. Especially given that more and more folks are downloading the routes anyway and not even using cue sheets. But I digress. So let's see. So we've created our cue sheet. Something else you can do here. Let's go back into edit mode. And you notice I said in the footer that the route was marked with blue arrows, but the route here is red. If you drag all the way across the bottom here, and you've got to drag carefully so you catch it all, but let's create the whole thing. I have an edit button that popped up here. Let me scroll down a little bit. Boy, okay, I can change the route color. I'm going to change it to blue. So now that maps the route color. And if I want to get even fancier, I could come in here and let's just select this part, our favorite climb on Lystra, and we'll get that kind of backed up there. And we'll edit again, and we'll go ahead and put that part in red just because. So, and let's save that now. So now, and update. So now when we go view our route, it's in the color we want, and the footer in our cue sheet tells us that it's that color, and for anyone looking at the map, they can see where the danger zone is, or where the herd is anyway.
So does the cue sheet, did it pick up the things like you put busy highway?
Yes, that's in the cue sheet. Now, see up here where it says pin? Pin is your friend. And you'll see why it's your friend, because it lets you find this route easily. So I want to pin this route. And now I'm going to change gears a little bit. We've created our route. Now I want to create an event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the club's home screen, go to events, and create event. And I want to create an event with routes, and I'll call it our demo event. And it's going to start Saturday, and it's going to end Saturday. And you can put a lot of more information here, but I'll leave it at that. And now I want to add a route. Oh, let me. And it does these in the most recent first. So since we just added that, we got it here. So now we have our event, we have our routes here. If you had created a lot of routes, you would have them all here. So what let me do is let me jump over to the summer rally event, since I'm familiar with that. To show you what happens when you have a multi-event or multi-route event. So for each one of these, again, you can print your preferred cue sheet, you can go to the route and do all the things there. But what's really cool is you can show all on the map. So here's the short route in black, now here's the medium, here's the long. So as folks want to figure out what do they want to do, well, they can see where each of the route goes, how they compare, where the points are, where they split. So again, another good thing to do. So now we've created our route, we've created our event, we've kind of done all the work on the creation side. Any questions on this much? Yes, sir.
I just have a suggestion, if you didn't talk about it, if it's welcome. When you created the route, and for everybody that's creating routes, if you had put that point where I don't know what the road is, where the rotary is you're talking about. Yeah. If you put that point before or after, but not in between where the bike trail goes, you know what I'm talking about? The tobacco trail. Does that make sense? It's not making sense. Is it?
I'm not sure what you're suggesting.
So if you go to your routes, I just want to call something out because these are, I've made my share of mistakes, and this will help you and everyone. If you go to where that rotary is,
You're talking about?
Yes, sir. You're heading up to Mooresville Parkway at number 4, mile marker 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go in there. So if you hit edit, you'll be able to see where you put the marker. I'm sorry. So see where you put the marker there in the middle? So if you had put that up on top at Mooresville Parkway, or it would have taken you, it would have defaulted to the tobacco trail.
Oh, okay.
And so you did it right, but not everybody may realize if you do that, it's going to put you on a gravel road. It'll take you to the same place, but it'll piss you off.
Right, because your point's well taken. And notice that down here at the bottom it says optimized for cycling. So sometimes that can happen, and that's why you want to review the cues, because that'll clue that in and review the route as well.
That with cue sheets, it's not quite so important, but if you use a Wahoo or a Garmin, if you put that point on the oncoming side of the road where there's a median in the middle, it'll make the route S-thing, and you'll bang your head against your computer at 100 degrees and go, what is going on? So,
I'd like to
I just
reinforce what you're saying.
wanted to point that one out.
I had a route that was just not working. I tried to download it, tried to load it in Strava, and it just wouldn't work. And it was just one little segment where it was a divided highway, and it clicked on the wrong direction. And no, we were zoomed out, so it just looked like a line, and clicked on the line. There was two options, and they got the wrong one. And the route went there and back and looped around at the figure eight. And then every time I tried to bring in my Garmin, it died. And eventually I go and do the verification thing, and then it shows me all these.
So what I want to do now is step you real quick through what you can now do with the Ride with GPS app now that you have the club membership with you. So if you open Ride with GPS.
David, is the club membership a premium membership, or is it when you showed that original slide, is it equivalent to the premium membership?
Almost.
Oh,
The one thing you don't get that I'm aware of, it's equivalent to the beacon function on Strava. You can't broadcast your location on the route to anyone else who might want to see it. There are other apps that will let you do that, but it won't show you on the route. But at any rate, the Ride with GPS app was just updated the end of last week. So like the instructions that are on our website are now no longer accurate, but the good news is what's here is much more usable than what it used to be. So here, what you see up here now is now the home screen. Remember I said that pinning a route is your friend. The pinned routes show up here right at the top. Now if you're using Ride with GPS to record your route, you'll see your career stats and stuff. I don't use it for that. Underneath here are the clubs. And if you tap that, now you can go in and see the events. You can go in and search through the routes, but since your pinned routes were already at the top, that's much easier there. And then you can do some other things, but the main thing I want to do is let's look at our demo route that we created. So here's this. 2 or 3 things are very pertinent, very helpful. If you can download the route, and the reason you want to do that is that if you're in any area where you may not have good cellular data, please close the door if you can. Then it lets either your phone, your device, or actually your phone truly work like a GPS computer. You don't need a cellular signal if you've downloaded the route. The navigate button lets you then actually use the app as a GPS computer. And if I tap here, you'll as you ride, it'll show you your speed, your distance, shows you where you are on the elevation chart, gives you your cue sheets or your cues here and step you through those. And then when you're done, you can post comments about it. So this does a lot of different stuff, but not only that, up here, if you tap up on the upper right, some of the ones that I like and I use all the time, the navigate to start will give you driving directions to the start of the ride. That's really, really handy if you're going somewhere where you're not sure where it is. In this case, this is pretty close. The other thing you can do is show my location. This shows your location along with the route. So this answers the question, am I on the route or not? And if I'm not, I can see how far away I am. You can also see how far away you are from the stores or from the rest stop.
When you do the navigate to start, it's not counting that as your route. Right?
No, that's just bringing up a Google Map driving direction.
Okay,
That's different from Garmin.
Yeah, it's different. Exactly, it's different from on Garmin. So these features, whether you're using the app as to navigate with or not, these features alone are really, really valuable to have. Because if you're, like I download to a Garmin, but that doesn't give me a bird's eye view of the route. And so this lets me see where I am, how far away things are, and so forth. And that's really, really useful.
So you use this in conjunction with your GPS?
Actually, if I'm doing a big ride, like a couple of weeks ago I did Blue Ridge Brutal, I'll have that on my phone like this, just in case I need it.
Does it wear your battery down?
Well, see, I'm only using this as a reference. I'm not running it so I would turn it on to see if I were off course or not. So that doesn't run the battery down. Ride with GPS has a very good help library, and one of them is battery saving tips. So if you're using the app, look in the help and look at their battery saving tips.
Can you search other rides, like other clubs?
Oh
like
gosh,
that?
yes. You can, yeah, the whole universe of things you can search.
Well, like the Tour de Orange, how would you search something like that? I mean, like,
Well,
I mean,
since
is it like Map My Ride or whatever, where you can see anybody
can-
that put a ride out there?
you can click go, routes, and then here's our own route library, but you can,
But if it was another club or someplace,
Yeah, you can just go in and find and put the stuff.
yeah, I mean, just start
as
search.
long as it's a ride, any place.
Yeah,
that's
so here's
been done on our
yeah,
ride.
there's the Tour de Orange route.
Okay, thank you.
Now, since you asked that, I'll mention this. If you just got their link and clicked on the link and brought up Ride with GPS without going through logging into the club account, if you download the TCX file, it's the default 30 meters in advance of notice. If you logged into the club account and now you open the link, if now you want to download the course, let's export as file, let's go to TCX. Now look, I can adjust this up to 100 meters, and I really like having that advance notice. So if you get somebody else's route, go ahead and go into the club account, then open that link, and now you can do more with it than you could otherwise.
Thank you.
All right, so let me get back to my presentation here. I know this is running a little bit long, but hold with me. Okay, so we've talked about all of that. We've done the demo here, and here's some of the help links that steps through the same thing. Demos here, let's say download the route if the cell reception is bad. We talked about the different functions we saw here. Now, if you're downloading a route to a Garmin, the classic way of doing this is you export the route either as a .fit or .tcx file. It's the same information. A .fit file is in binary format, so it's a little smaller and it'll load faster. Then you attach your Garmin or Wahoo or whatever to your computer and transfer it over. For Garmin, you copy the file to the new files folder, and now you've got it on your computer and you're ready to use it. One huge caveat here. The route name gets truncated at 15 characters. So I was doing the Tour de Blueberry back in June, and they had the Tour de Blueberry metric route A and Tour de Blueberry metric route B. And once they got downloaded, it was interpreted as the same route. You can import one, but not both. So I called them up and said, hey, you might want to adjust this, and they did, thankfully.
Yeah.
So
If you're doing that, you can go and rename the route, download the first one, change it to A. And then
or you
download
can edit the TCX file if you want. But the thing is, if you're the route creator,
Yeah.
you want to make, again, if you're making a usable route, you want a route that is distinguishable in the first 15 characters. So use an abbreviated name and then put the distance up front in the route name, and then you'll be good to go.
Well, you can also, when you bring up the ride, you can, instead of downloading it, you can save a copy. And when you save a copy, you can change the name. And
True.
you can avoid
True, but you want it to be usable in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah, so if someone else hasn't done it right, yes, you can fix it. But if you're creating a route, you want to make sure that you do it right to begin with. All righty. So if you're loading a route onto a Garmin, you'd go to the navigation section here. You'd say, I'm courses. I want to do save course. In this case, let's do the 5.0 ride. And then I click ride here, and then that would set it up where now you're ready to ride that route. Of course, what you see here is on a Garmin 1030. They have other smaller devices and Wahoos and so forth, but basically it's going to be the same. Once you've got it on your device, it's just a matter of loading it and then riding it. Now, once you're using the route on a Garmin, you'll get a map that can look like this. I want to point out, see all those dots over here on the right? I have a Garmin radar. These are all cars that are behind me. If you're not familiar with the Garmin radar, this thing is awesome. And I'm convinced it's a game changer in terms of personal safety, because this tells me when I've got cars behind me, even when I can't see them. But I digress. I have other standard screens here. Now, this wasn't connected to my bike at the time, but I've got the gear indicator here at the top. You can slide back and forth. if you have the route loaded, you can see the elevation profile as you go along.
To have the gear indicator, is that electronic shifting?
Yeah, if you've got electronic shifting, and it would give you a visual representation of what gear you're in front and back. Now here, I had put a cue for summit. So you see the little icon for summit there, and it says highest PO. And that's because on the device, it gets truncated to about 10 characters. If you're navigating with the app, you get this nice huge alert with all the text there. But if you're creating a custom cue with a warning or the like, be aware that it may be very short with whoever is looking at it. So Vexel here, same one we created before, but we're turning on to 751, just says busy hide W. We'll fine, abbreviate that to H. You can abbreviate that and maintain the same meeting. So we talked about the classic method, the cooler method, and Justin just told me about this last week, is a Garmin device is like a smartphone, and it has its own apps. And so you can download a RideWithGPS app for your Garmin that lets you download routes directly from RideWithGPS to your Garmin. So you don't have to go through your computer, don't have to use the cable, don't have to use any of that. If you go to the apps.garmin.com, you'll see that. You can list it by device. And then it goes to Garmin Connect. So for that part, you'll still have to have connect it to your computer. But once you've got the IQ app selected, it looks like this. You're going to click on the IQ part down here to open your apps. Here's the 3 I happen to have loaded. I'll click Ride with GPS. And here, look, pinned routes. I'll hit my pinned routes, hit the 50 ride, and I can either just download it, or if I'm already ready to ride, just download it, ride, and now I'm ready to go. So much simpler, all on your bike, much faster.
So can you go through that again? How do you get that IQ thing on your Garmin?
It should already be there.
It should already be there.
If it's not,
So you have to download.
You have to download the app.
I have to download the app.
well, you'll make upgrade your Garmin to the latest firmware. And they've added this function to some of the old ones. Now this is, I have one of the newer ones, but yeah, this assumes you have this IQ function here on your Garmin.
Okay, and if I don't, I just have to update the software on the Garmin?
No, you got it.
I have it?
Yeah.
And
It's
then
got
I,
Strava and everything on it.
and then I could just, download the routes onto Ride with GPS and then just.
Yeah, it just straights from the Ride with GPS to your Garmin.
No cable involved.
No cable. Yes, yes.
But do you have to be on a computer first to do that?
No, no.
It can,
Yes, it's that good.
so you log into the club account through that IQ app, or like?
No, you've already created the route.
Right.
You've already pinned it. All
Yeah.
right. So now on and you've already installed the Ride with GPS app on the Garmin.
Right,
Then you go through this sequence.
but it's gonna know that.
You
Yes.
authenticate through your Ride with GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're on the computer.
Yes.
On the Garmin. You have to do that.
Oh, yeah, okay. And
Okay.
When you get the app,
David?
Yeah.
GPS app, you go.
because it's like a.
Does the route have to be pinned, or
No, you can search for
Where
it.
is that
So you
passcode?
just have to have
It
it
comes up on the
downloaded
Garmin,
and Ride
you go
with
to
GPS, however
use
you
a
got it,
computer,
or
go to
whatever
Ride with
you
GPS
selected
URL,
it,
type in
whatever,
that
and
passcode,
then
and it
the
authenticates
IQ
to
thing
your
will
Ride
get
with
it off
GPS
Ride
account.
Yeah.
So you have to.
If you pin the route, it's just faster.
Passcode from the
The first
Garmin
time you use it,
and go into the computer first.
All right, let me wrap it up here because I know we've been going a while. Let me talk about Strava. Unfortunately, you can't import a route straight from Ride with GPS into Strava. It would be really cool if you could.
I
If-
did that fairly often with lab stuff.
It's a multi-step process if you want to do that. What I recommend when you're creating an event on Strava, if you do that, in the description part, just add the link to your Ride with GPS route, and that tends to work okay. Other apps, there's one that I'm particularly fond of, and let me get this back up here. Where am I? Oh.
So will Ride with GPS give me the same outputs as Strava, like max speed?
Yeah, its analytics is pretty good if you upload the right GPS.
Okay.
You're not getting kudos from me.
Oh, darn.
And you don't get king of the mountain.
Yeah, Strava's, I mean, to their credit, is really, really good for social and for performance analysis and stuff like that. I just joined like a month or so ago. I do like it. Although I call it the great destroyer of group rides.
Yes, a good point.
All right, so this isn't behaving itself. I'm not going to belabor the point. So if you have Epic Ride Weather, which is free for the first 30 days and pretty cheap afterwards, you can select Ride with GPS as your route source. It has a tab for pinned routes, so that it lets you select the pinned routes. And then it shows you the weather for the route during the time you will be riding the route, including this really cool weather map or wind map that shows the wind direction and speed. And the bigger the arrow, the stronger the wind. So you know what you're getting into, where on the route you'll have headwinds or tailwinds, which to me is useful information, especially if you're at the beach.
So there's no club account for that one, huh?
No, but it's not that expensive. It's not. So here's our questions we had back at the beginning. So let's go over these. Where are the rest stops? If you put them on the map, people know where they are. Is there a convenience store? If you put them on the map, they know where they are. Am I off course? Well, if they're just using the route and using the app that you've created, they can know that. Again, the club account gives you that for free. What's the next turn? If they're navigating with your route, they know that. What if I'm outside of cell coverage? You download the route to the Ride with GPS app, you've got it if you don't have cell coverage. What's the address of the rest stop? If you added that in the information, it's already there. Is there a hazard coming up? That's usually not a question you ask. The question you usually ask is, damn, why didn't somebody tell me about that? If you put it in as a queue, you will have been told about that. Is there a queue sheet? Yes, if you created one and specified it as the preferred queue sheet. Whom do I call for help? If you put that on the footer of the queue sheet, that information is there. And why I can only install one of an event's routes on my Garmin, that's because you know they're truncated at 15 characters. So there you go. So with a few interruptions and delays, we got through. So I hope you know enough now that creating routes, whoever uses them will say, damn, that person knew what they were doing.
Before we call it quits, can we go through how to join the NCBC club account on the website?
Oh, yeah. If that's, let's try that again. So,
Just one thing I was going to say that I find really useful is people will send me routes that are done, but there's no queue sheet on them. And I want to share that with a bunch of people. With the advanced settings, you can go in and trace route, and it will create a queue sheet for you, and it's magic.
oh, there's more. There's a lot more stuff you can do. Truly, a lot more stuff you can do. But this, we're already here over an hour. so here we are. Anything else?
Can you go to one of the route screens you had where you show a map?
Sure.
See right there? That's
Cool. Yeah. You obviously know a lot about the file types. Why TCX and not GPX?
sometimes that doesn't.
TCX gives you more information, and is especially more information if you're for the queues. So for navigation, it's actually better. If you just want to see the route, GPX is fine. And like I said, Fit's relatively recent, but that same information, but in binary format.
Using the Garmin IO app that the Ride with GPS, you were, I don't remember, you were saying that if you get that code, where on the screen we're looking at, where do you enter when you use that Ride with GPS app, you first, it gives you a 6-digit code or whatever.
Okay, so
I didn't know how to use it because it gave that code and I didn't know where to put it. And how does it know? Somebody was saying that you have to put that code on your computer with Ride with GPS the first time to do that automatic transfer. And my question is where on the,
I'm not recognizing what you're describing.
That URL comes up on the Garmin.
Right.
When the code comes up, underneath that, it says go to this
Okay.
address and put in this code.
oh, and then once that happens, you don't ever have to go,
Correct, it's a one-time thing.
okay.
So here's the Connect IQ store.
Yeah, I've
You
gotten
can-
that, yes.
Oh, okay, and so here's, again, I have a 1030.
Once I got it, I didn't know how to use it.
Oh,
I did
okay.
nothing with it. So that was my question, how to make it,
You'd, on your home computer, you'd have to have Garmin Connect,
I do.
or actually it's Garmin Express, which is with the software you install.
Well,
You
the
connect
Garmin
it-
Connect I have.
Well, either way, but you have to connect your Garmin to your computer, and then you download the app through that connection.
I've done that, but once I had that Ride with GPS app on my Garmin, I couldn't get it to do anything. That was my question. I
It's gotta
have,
be connected on your phone to.
Well, I-
Connect on your phone.
Let me see the Garmin.
Okay. All right, so I'll be around for a while if you have other questions. Make sure you've settled up with the server, of course.
it takes a while to get that.
And Don will be getting information out about our September meeting, but our October meeting is about the Trek travel and everything that's behind that, which I think should be really interesting. And then we'll be having a Christmas party on Friday, December 6th at someplace really fabulous.